Former Auburn player and ESPN personality has a very interesting take on Jackson Arnold.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie 5, and we are ready to get after it. Happy Monday. Let's get this week kicked off with a bang. Cole Cubelic had a very interesting take on Jackson Arnold and going from playing for a defensive-minded head coach to an offensive-minded head coach. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on this as we talk about it. And then I want to talk a little bit of Auburn baseball. I don't do it enough. This team is a lot of fun to watch, doing things that winning games in a lot of different ways. And then Auburn golf as they finish up the SEC championship and then head to follow a little bit short there. And then now they're getting ready for nationals. Still got a really good chance to repeat. We're going to talk about all that here in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Uncle Keith's Red Sauce. Go to UncleKeith'sRedSauce.com. Use coupon code TheBarn30 to take 30% off. If you love salsa, I know you're going to love this product. It's got a little bit of a southern kick to it. They got mild, they got spicy. If you don't want to buy it, in a case or whatever off the website or buy it in bulk, you can go to your local Publix if you live in the state of Alabama. There's select Piggly Wigglies you can find it at as well in the South. If you don't live close to either one of those, definitely you're just going to have to go ahead and go online, but you get to save big and give it a shot. You'll be supporting an Auburn family at the same time. Give it some love. Show them some love. Uncle Keith's Red Sauce. It's good, y'all. All right, I want to play this clip. Cole Cubelic went on Cole Cubelic from ESPN, from the SEC Network. He does a show with Greg McElroy. He actually went on one of my favorite shows, McCready and Siskey. I've had Tyler Siskey on the show before. And they're discussing Jackson Arnold, and Cole makes a really interesting point, actually, from Greg McElroy. I want to get y'all's thoughts on it, but I'm going to play it here in just a second, then we're going to break it down.
But hey, listen to this. This is really cool. I bet I don't know how much you've thought about this. So Greg and I were talking about him on the show one day because I'm pretty hard on what Jackson was last year, and Greg's a little more forgiving. And he goes, the thing that you need to think about that I don't think you think about is it's hard playing quarterback for a defensive-minded head coach.
It is.
And I was like, okay, why? I'll entertain this. And he said, when you have a defensive-minded head coach, the message is constantly don't f up. Whatever you do, don't screw this up.
And from an offensive standpoint, we're like, cut that loose. It's first and 10.
I had never thought of it, and I had never heard him say it. And I immediately, like what you're saying, I thought to myself, would Lane Kiffin ever say anything like that to a quarterback?
Oh, no.
Would Lincoln Riley, would Steve Sarkisian in their last dying days ever say something like that to a quarterback? Hell to the nah. You know what it is like I do. Hey, man, let it rip. Hey,
All right,
boy, go get it.
Like an
You
Alabama.
can fit this in there. Squeeze it in there. We got it.
First off, kudos to those editing skills. Those were not edited whenever I found the video, but still, I think that's a very interesting point. It's something that I've never really thought of before. When you talk about, I want to make this clear. I don't think it's impossible, and there's probably there's tons of examples you can come up with of guys having success under quarterbacks having success under defensive-minded head coaches. I don't think that's necessarily the point. I think the point is it's just a little bit tougher to play, to be an offensive player, to be a quarterback for a defensive-minded head coach, especially when you have a really good defense and the offense is going through a lot of adversity that Oklahoma went through last year. I think that ratchets up the pressure even more. Like, you got to remember, Jackson Arnold committed and signed with Oklahoma for Jeff Lebby. As a matter of fact, like there was a good chance he could have gone to Mississippi State out of the portal just because he was a Jeff Lebby guy. You know, that's the type of offense he wanted to play in, you know, heavy RPO, challenge vertically, be able to even mix in a little bit of his athletic skills in the run game. That's what he was going for. And Jeff Lebby obviously took the head coaching job at Mississippi State after his freshman year when he was kind of set to take over. And then we all know about all the injuries. We all know about the wide receivers. I'm not going to go through that. I'm not going to go through the offensive line. But I think it's very interesting, the messaging that probably comes from a defensive head coach versus an offensive head coach, especially in this Oklahoma situation. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Just the idea that from the defensive side, you're hearing, please just don't turn it over, don't screw it up, and then going out there with the mindset, don't turn it over, don't screw it up. Now, Jackson did a really good job last year of not turning it over. I don't think he only threw 3 interceptions, threw very few interceptions. I think he had some fumbles later whenever he was having to run the ball a little bit more. But what that has to do, I would imagine, it's got to make you second guess yourself a lot. When I'm thinking, don't screw it up, don't screw it up. Hey, am I going to hold the ball a little bit longer? Am I going to not try to fit a ball into a window that I probably could fit? I got the talent to fit it into, but I don't want to screw it up. Does it affect you in that way? I got to imagine. I think earlier in that clip, he said that Jackson double pumped himself to death a lot last year. Could it have been, it could have been a number of things, but could it also have been the messaging from, a defensive-minded head coach? Shift gears. You're coming to Auburn. Hugh Freeze's offense is very, very similar to Jeff Lebby's. How many times do you hear Hugh talk about challenging vertically? How many times do you hear him talk about just get the ball in the vicinity of a wide receiver to make a play? Those 50-50 scenarios. Does that sound like don't screw it up? Or does that sound more like let it rip? And I think that was probably some of the issues with Peyton last year at times. Hey, sometimes you just got to let it rip. Sometimes you just got to put the ball out there and let the guys make a play. So you take all of that similar system, offensive-minded head coach, a chance to kind of rebuild the confidence. And Hugh is not shy about telling quarterbacks to put the ball in the air. His offenses, they yield a lot of yards, and most of the time they yield a lot of points, but they can also, if you're putting the ball in the air a lot and you're making a lot of decisions in a very short amount of time, you can, obviously throw the ball to the other team some as well. So that's part of it with this offense. But I'm wondering if that mindset change is also a bonus for Jackson that you don't think of. We've thought about our wide receivers are going to be better. We've thought about that the offensive line should be a lot better. We've thought about, even to an extent, that the system is a little bit closer to what he'd like to run, fits his skill set a lot better. Have we thought about, the offensive-minded head coach versus the defensive-minded head coach? I think that's fascinating. I've never thought about that before, but it makes total sense. It makes total sense because it's two different mindsets. It's watching, it's leading football through two different lenses. I'm interested to see how that plays a role as far as Jackson's development here at Auburn. Everybody's excited about him. He had a great spring. I know Deuce got a lot of the hype because, hey, 5-star quarterback, freshman, making plays. That's fun to talk about. Jackson had a great spring as well. So he is the number one quarterback. You need him to be good for Auburn to be good. So I think everybody's really excited about the potential of this offense and excited about Jackson just in general. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think it even matters? I mean, that's coming from Greg McElroy, who played at Alabama, that's sort of taken up for an Auburn quarterback, and then obviously Cole Cubelic, who played at Auburn, played in the SEC as well. So I will say this. I do think sometimes Greg and Cole both go hard in the opposite directions. What I mean by that is they try really hard not to be labeled as homers. So Greg sometimes will go super pro Auburn, and I feel like Cole sometimes will go super negative Auburn. But that's just that's part of the business. That's part of the business aspect of entertainment. You don't want to be labeled as a homer, whereas I want to be labeled as a homer. So when you're at that level, you want to try to do everything you can not to be a homer. But I still think it's a very interesting conversation to have. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. I want to switch gears. I want to talk about baseball here in just a second. I don't give baseball enough love, and we're about to do that. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to mybookie.ag. Use coupon code BARN, BARN, to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Bet any sports line you can imagine. You got NBA playoffs right now that you can hit big on. You got hockey. You have Major League Baseball, all kinds of stuff, and you'll take advantage of some free play. Go win big over at mybookie.ag. Take all that, go over to rowback.com. Use coupon code BUTTON20 to take 20% off your order. Everything you can imagine that you could need for the summer, they got it. It's about to be good golf weather, good outdoor weather, beach weather, pool weather. They got you covered on literally all of those different aspects. So show them some love. Check them out. It's rowback.com. We'll be back right after this. Let's talk Auburn baseball really quick. Last year was a disaster. There was a lot of folks that were even calling for Butch's head, which I thought was just asinine, but it happens. It was a 27-26 overall record, 8-22 in the conference. Only won 2 conference series last year. Got swept a pile of times as well. Just not good. Just not anywhere near where you feel like you should be. You've been at the College World Series twice in recent memory, and then you just have basically a throwaway season. You come into this year, I think a lot of people were just sort of, I'm not sure how to feel. I don't really know. Should I be excited? Should I not? And this team, man, has been very, very impressive in a incredibly difficult SEC. Already, you still have 3 whole SEC series left to play. Already have topped the total wins from last year. This past weekend, you went over the 27 mark from last year, and you're 30-14 with multiple series left. You just a little bit over 500 in conference. Already have more conference wins than last year. And the big thing is you're winning series. You're winning the series. How do you say that in plural? Is it series? Series? How do you say series? Series is multiple series, I guess. I think you just say series. In the SEC, and you still got a really good chance to win a couple down the stretch as well. So you've won more series than you did last year. The cool thing to me also is they're winning games in so many different ways. Extra innings, 1-run games, blowouts. We've won a pile of 1-run games. Win a game 1-0. And then you can do things like you did on Sunday and score 14 runs, which I think is the most runs in an SEC game I think I saw in quite a while, I think, for Auburn. You go to LSU and sweep them. I'm sorry, you didn't go to LSU. You did that at home. You swept LSU at home. LSU's, like a top 5 team, top 7 team. It's like crazy. If you look at the top 10 let me just read this top 10. Texas, SEC. Clemson, Oregon State, Florida State, Arkansas, SEC, Tennessee, SEC, LSU, SEC, North Carolina, Vanderbilt, SEC, Georgia, SEC, Auburn. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the top 11 teams are in the SEC. And you have to go to Tennessee coming up. You get South Carolina at home, which is great. Then you have to go to Ole Miss, who's, I think, 23rd in the country. So doing really, really good. Got a really good chance to host a regional if they keep it up. Not a perfect team by any means. I know they still seem to have some pitching issues occasionally, but they just do enough to win. They do the things they got to do. They find ways to win, and that's how you can characterize. That's one of the big things that you can tell if a team is a championship level team or a team that can make a run. They just figure out ways to win, which is like the absolute opposite of last year, where they almost found ways to lose. So we got to get on this baseball train. I know we have the Barn Baseball Show, which is by far, it's got to be the best baseball show for Auburn out there. Like, it's just, you got Sonny D, Lindsey Crosby, those guys, Brad Law, that love it, live it. You can't have any better information on the team and can't have any better coverage than what you get there. So you got, like I said, you got 3 series left. You play Samford midweek, and then you have Tennessee. You go to Tennessee. That's going to be tough. I mean, in my opinion, if you win one of those, you're happy. You come home, you get South Carolina. South Carolina is not the South Carolina that they have been in the past. You win that series, then you got to go to Ole Miss, which I think is also a winnable series. So really good chance to close strong, head into Hoover, and then, hopefully get a chance to host a regional. I think that'd be massive, a massive turnaround for this team. So definitely need to show them some love. Auburn baseball killing it right now. All right, let's switch gears to Auburn golf. Auburn golf, golf is my first love. So we're going to talk Auburn golf for just a second. Obviously coming off a national championship, SEC championship year. They had the SEC championships this past week at Sea Island over in St. Simons, Georgia. And the SEC championships are kind of a weird format. So you play 3 rounds of golf, okay? And honestly, it's mostly to decide the individual champion. It's to decide the individual champion, and then it decides your seeding for match play, which I think is weird. You play 3 rounds of golf. I think that's enough to show who the best team is in college in that particular tournament. But then they take the top 8 and they seed them out, and then you have a match play tournament after the fact. So it's a ton of golf. But regardless, through the 3 rounds that you play to kind of get your seeding for match play, Auburn won by 9 strokes. So Auburn beat everybody by 9 strokes in those first 3 rounds. I mean, they're really, really good. Jackson Koivun, I don't know that we'll ever have another player at Auburn of this caliber. It's just incredible what he's been able to do. Basically punches his PGA Tour card ticket by winning the SEC championship again in back-to-back years, and with a 6 under on the final round. So, I mean, it's not like he was just coasting to the lead. He had to go deep on the final round to be able to win it, and he did it. So that part's over with. Now you go to the match play. Auburn wins their first match play against Texas, which is fun. This is kind of funny. So Texas is the number 3 overall team in the country, but they finished 8th in the first 3 rounds. So the 1 plays the 8. So the 1 plays the 8, but the 8 is actually the number 3 team in the country. That's why I don't know. The match play thing's kind of weird. So they take down Texas, and then they had to play Florida, which is the number 6 team in the country, and they go down. So they go down in the semifinals of the SEC or SEC. I don't know if you want to call it the championship tournament, SEC championship. We'll just call it that. They went down in the semifinals of the SEC championship to Florida. Now they have to switch gears and get ready to go to nationals. This team is incredible. I think they're the number 2 team in the country. They're going to it's going to be an upset if they don't get to match play. The nationals is going to be a very similar format. You're going to play, there's like 2 cuts, I think. You cut down to 16, and then I think you cut down to 8 after so many rounds. So then they're going to do match play again. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, Auburn won it last year. Would be super cool to go back to back. Crazy, man. There's a lot of teams at Auburn right now that are having a ton of success. A lot of teams. Obviously, you got the men's basketball that went to the Final Four. You got baseball playing really well, looking to possibly host a regional. And then you got golf that's, going to be headed to the nationals with a really good chance to win it. Once again, just got to get football on track. And hopefully we kind of get headed in the right direction after this season. I'd love to know all your thoughts on all Auburn sports in the comments. I typically respond to every single one. Hey, this is I call it drivel season. I've been talking about it, but we're going to be there every single day. This is like what Dap said last night. This is what separates the men from the boys. So I really appreciate you guys, the ones that listen every single day, that are in the chat every single day. You guys are awesome. If you like this video, like it. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. We're going to be back every single day, getting after it. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.